Loads of stuff happens in India. This stands to reason. It's a huge and unruly country with near enough to 1.5 billion people living in 28 states and 8 union territories, as different from each other as the countries of Europe, speaking hundreds of languages, voting for dozens of political parties, worshipping the assorted deities of at least a handful of major religions, engaged incessantly in the extraordinary and energetic endeavour that makes India a spectacle like no other. Stories you might have missed from this random week in the life of this astonishing country, plucked more or less at random from Indian newspapers, include a seizure of 2 tons of smuggled rice at Egmore Station in Chennai, a rash of mango-thieving motorcycle gangs in Gujarat, a 3rd fatal tiger attack in a fortnight in Uttar Pradesh, surgeons in Ajmer successfully extracting a coin swallowed by a local citizen 16 years ago and only detected when her work as an MRI technician brought her into contact with magnets, a gift of 4 trained elephants from Karnataka state to Andhra Pradesh to help with the control of pestilential wild elephants, the conviction in Tiruvananthapuram of a murderer who claimed astral projection as a defense, a soothsayer denied entry to Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland where he hoped to campaign for cows. He didn't see that coming, etc. No, really, thanks for coming out. The point here being, don't beat yourself up too badly if you've zoned out on a conflict which has for nearly half a century seen Indian police and India's military pitted against Indian militants across an area about the size of Hungary or Minnesota, and which was back in the news this week, elbowing even all of the above off the front pages when Indian Home Minister Amit Shah confirmed that among the 27 rebels killed in a firefight with security forces in the central province of Chhattisgarh was Nambala Keshava Rao, commonly known and feared by the nom de guerre Basavaraju, General Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Maoist. Maoist appears in parentheses, but is the key word here. Basavaraju had been leading this outfit for 7 years, but had been involved in Maoist insurgency in some way or another since the mid-1970s, though the story of India's Maoists goes back even further than that, to a time when it was maybe just about possible to still regard Mao Zedong, founder of the People's Republic of China, as a revolutionary liberator of impoverished rural folk, rather than as one of history's more ideologically demented oppressors. The genesis of the Maoist revolt in India is generally reckoned to be the Naxalbari uprising of 1967, a brief rebellion in the Darjeeling district of West Bengal, fought largely and unsuccessfully with bows, arrows and spears. But it gave India's militant communists the name by which they have also been known since: Naxalites. The Naxalites/communists were not, however, and have never been, a coherent front. These are left-wing zealots we're talking about, so there is inevitably a rich, complex and deeply tedious history of splits, schisms and fallings out over arcane points of dogma that no sane person could care less about. Suffice to say that along with the Communist Party of India Maoist, there is or has been a Communist Party of India Marxist, a Communist Party of India Marxist-Leninist, a Revolutionary Communist Party of India, a Marxist Communist Party of India, and, with commendable optimism, a United Communist Party of India. This is far from a complete list, but we don't have all week. It was the Communist Party of India Maoist who committed to armed struggle in recent decades under the banner of an armed wing, the People's Liberation Guerrilla Army. The name an obvious nod to Mao's People's Liberation Army, its red flag emblazoned with the hammer and sickle and a gun, though not the AK-47 usually favoured by groups of the PLGA's ilk all over the world, but the Indian-made Insas rifle, so they don't completely lack patriotic instincts. India has derided the PLGA as a fringe of violent cranks, which may not be a wholly inaccurate characterization, but doesn't really account for the scale of some PLGA attacks over the years. In 2010, for example, Maoists ambushed a police exercise in Chhattisgarh and killed 76 officers and blew up a bus carrying police and civilians, killing dozens more. As recently as April 2023, another police transport in Chhattisgarh was destroyed by a Maoist roadside bomb, with a further 11 fatalities. All of which would be correctly judged intolerable by any country, but it rankles especially with a government gripped by the authoritarian tendencies of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has resolved to go zero tolerance on the Maoists with a view to eliminating them and/or their creed by March 2026. In the last year or so, according to India's government, upwards of 400 Maoist/Naxalite rebels have been killed, and the surrenders have been accepted of a further 700-odd. A decade ago, Maoist/Naxalite activity was registered in 126 districts. It is now officially reckoned to be down to 18. It has been suggested, plausibly, that India's approach is more mallet than scalpel, and that among the dead are entirely blameless civilians, many of them Adivasis, the indigenous folk of Chhattisgarh, who might also be unkeen on the wholesale exploitation of the considerable mineral wealth beneath their traditional lands, and who the government does not mind intimidating as a byproduct of the war against an enemy which may now be almost as convenient as it has previously been a nuisance. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.